Hello, everybody.
Welcome, Andre. Happy to have you.
Thank you.
Hi,
Andre,
welcome.
Explain a little bit what you do in the town so those of us who are unfamiliar with you have a better understanding of what you're doing.
So I am a physical education teacher. That's my graduation in college. I am from Brazil and I've been in Nantucket for the last 16 years, which 5 of these years I've been in and out between Nantucket and Venice, California. I was in the process of studying martial arts and managing a MMA gym there. And the last 4 months, I came back with the program. I franchised the same gym from Venice, California to Nantucket. And that's what I do on almost full-time basis. I coach kids and adults on martial arts and self-defense. Besides working at Nantucket Health Club with personal training.
Fantastic. Welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm very happy to be back.
Recording in progress.
Is there a motion to approve the agenda for today?
So moved.
I second it.
We'll skip over officers. We have Officer Mack here today for a security update.
Yes, thank you, guys. Over the summer, it worked out pretty well. The night shift was able to move a lot of those kids out of Children's Beach. Sometimes several times a night after 10 p.m. I went down there for a week at night and I just didn't let them in after dark. And we posted a bike CSO there that helped out a lot. And I know Bettina mentioned some things about the trash and well, she can get into that, but we were able to do that a lot this summer, which kind of helped. One other thing, I couldn't share some pictures, but the people that ran the concession stand, they kind of left a lot of stuff back there. Charlie, have you seen that?
Yeah, I've been down. They had a lot of. They've gone back. It looks like they've cleaned up. Like they're slowly cleaning it and closing down.
All right. Some of that.
There was some fencing and.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff still there, but there's 2 fridges there with I know you can't get locked in them, but the doors are up, they can blow open. But I guess they're gonna take all that stuff away. Is that right?
Yeah, they have to leave that area,
Okay.
there for the winter.
All right. And then you mentioned a couple of problems at the Delta Fields. That's probably going to continue to happen, but we're kind of lucky that doesn't happen more often with all the people that, population explosion.
We got lucky having the kind of the chain was kind of left down all summer to make just access for some of the coaches and landscapers in there.
Yeah.
We've since have the chain back up, so it's not as easy to get a vehicle in there now.
Okay. Yeah. Other than that, I don't know, Bettina, what do you think of the stuff that you mentioned in your letter there attached to this?
Well, the beginning of the season, the trash it gets worse every year.
Yeah.
And I basically am a janitor for a good 20 minutes in the morning. Once I spoke with you, Officer Mack, and you got people down there in the evenings, there was a big difference in the amount of trash. Huge difference. But the people who ran the concession, who, by the way, were the nicest people so far in the 23 years we've been down there, they said that these kids climb on their roof, they climb on the roof of the bandstand. They're really destructive. And you and I talked a little bit about getting some security cameras. To me, it almost doesn't matter if they work or not. Just having the cameras up there could be a deterrent to these kids causing havoc. I mean, I was a kid once too, but it just has gotten out of hand. So that's all I can say about the trash. Is it really did help when you started to have whether it was in officer or a bicycle policeman, somebody was down there at night.
Yeah, and hopefully we had a full contingent of CSOs this year. We had over 40 and we had, we had extras. So hopefully we can do that again next year. And I am gonna see if I can assign one just to that area as late as possible.
That would
So,
be fabulous.
yeah, that's all I have, guys.
Excellent, thank you.
Yep.
Next, I was gonna move on to Bettina, if you wanted to give a review of how
Great.
the summer
Thank you.
program went. And
Yeah, the program went well. In fact, we had our most profitable summer ever. So that was good. I think although we had a following during COVID, people had to be 6 feet apart and anyways, and they're all excited now to be back and be a little closer together. Each year we pick up more regulars. And to me, that's what's precious about this program is the people who come year after year after year. And I get emails from them in the middle of the winter and they say, I'm so looking forward to the program next summer and my favorite part of coming in the summer. And that lights my heart up. So I'm hoping to do the program again next summer. The one thing that I think needs doing maintenance wise is that bandstand needs a good sanding. It's been some years and few people got splinters this summer, and even more importantly for the little children that Marjorie has running around barefoot down there.
we have a note to get the facilities guys down there to give it a good once over this off season.
Good. And the DPW guys are extremely nice. I mean, it was a wonderful summer that way. There was no animosity down there at all. Again, those people that ran the concession were just delightful. And without my even asking, they checked the bandstand each night when they left to make sure there wasn't any product of theirs.
So you send it to her, okay?
So I would love to do another season if you all would allow me. It's a real honor to get to run that program.
Excellent, thank you. Look forward to probably, I guess we'll see you in the spring for the restart.
Good, thank you very much. And, I just want to, I said this last year, but reiterate that the thing that I can provide that a lot of the younger yoga teachers can't is keeping the people safe, because I've taught now for 30 years and being a little bit older, I'm also very aware of keeping people safe. So the last thing I want is somebody getting hurt down there and the town getting sued. So I'm careful with that.
Bettina, is there an application process with the town in terms of being able to get permission to do that? And if so, or if not, should there be? And if so, what can we do to help you?
Yes, it should be. And usually Marina sends me the application. And if anybody else has it, I'm glad to give you my email address so I can fill it out, or tell me where to go online to fill it out.
Do you want to follow up with that?
Yeah, we can. Like I said, currently the way the bandstand operates, the applications come in through Marina's office, then they come to us as the commission for approval for each season.
Okay, I'll be in touch with Marina about that then.
Sounds great.
Okay, I just want to say, Meryl, you look so much like your dad, was an old friend of mine. So nice to see you.
Yeah, you too. Thank you for saying that.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. Next on the agenda, Marina, would you like to take off with the turkey plunge?
Hi everyone. So I have a request from SNAM for annual cold turkey plunge that usually happens on a Thanksgiving morning. So they have a request for the use of Children's Beach from 8 a.m. until 10:30 p.m. On Thursday, and they have also request for the rain date on Friday. I only remember only once we had to do turkey plunge on Friday because of the freezing temperatures on Thursday. So they expect to have between 800 and 900 people. They usually get ambulance from fire department. They usually get 3 police officers to support that event. Harborview Way get closed for a couple hours just for safety reasons, just to keep crowd safe. So a couple issues that we usually have with that event, because concession is closed for the season, bathrooms at Children's Beach closed, and the water has been turned off for the season. So that's why Athenaeum would have to provide their own portable restrooms. And the reason why they have to provide, because they have food, just cookies or some breakfast food items. And usually health department requires, if there is a food available and people consume food for longer than 15 minutes, there should be bathrooms available for the public to use. And it will be determined by health department how many portable port potties they have to provide, but that's something that they would have to provide. They usually have a small tent. It's like 16-foot round, and in the past, we had some damage done to the irrigation system at the Children's Beach. That's why we usually ask to have irrigation system marked. And I talked to Charlie, and as I understand, the system has been already flagged. So they should put the tent up around irrigation system. Usually a few days before the event, they put a work order request through DPW to have the beach raked. And then the usually set up orange fencing for the people that go in the water, and it's event organizers' responsibility. That's pretty much it for this year. So just a couple days ago, there was some discussion about them having a food truck, but because the request came so late, and since we have a concession agreement at the Children's Beach, first they have to talk to the concession, and they have the first right of refusal. And if they give permission, they can have a food truck, but that's something we can consider for next year, just to have exact location where a food truck can be located. And if it's something like that, will be supported by Park and Rec Commission, because technically we usually do not allow food trucks at Children's Beach. That's pretty much it for that event.
So I guess, is there a motion to approve the application for the turkey punch? Like Mike moved, is there a second?
I second it.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Welcome in, Mike.
Thank you.
Sorry, I had trouble getting in.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks, Marina.
Thank you.
So now that Mike's here, I guess we can take a step back to officers.
Do you want nominations? Is
Sure,
that how
is
you
there,
want to run this?
Maureen, what's the minimum we have to have as a chair and a vice chair? Or chair, vice chair, secretary?
As long as Meryl wants to keep on as secretary, unless she has some competition, but yes, we have to have the 3, chair, vice chair, and secretary.
All right, is there, are there any nominations for chair?
I nominate Ken Bogran.
Is there a second on that nomination?
I second it.
Seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Do I get a vote?
Yeah. well,
Too late.
Too late. Congratulations, Ken. Is there a nomination for vice chair?
So Meryl, you're going to remain treasurer,
Secretary,
secretary.
unless, yeah, unless that's contested, but
Okay. I don't imagine you can serve in 2 capacities. Am I right about that, Town? Maureen?
She cannot.
Okay.
are
And
there usually only 4 members of the,
We're
Parks
still
and Rec?
working on.
We're still
sorry.
working on trying to find a 5th.
a 5th?
So if anybody
Okay.
knows anybody,
have
I've
we-
reached out to like 5 or 6 different people and trying to get somebody to commit has been a little tough. So if anybody has anybody in mind.
Recommendations.
Did we explore Travis Lombardi?
No,
That's
as in we didn't explore, or no? he
No, we
doesn't want
didn't.
to?
I mean,
Now,
that's a no-brainer if you ask me, because of his connection to athletics and the coordination with the schools. I think you really need somebody from the schools to strengthen that relationship.
I can reach out to Travis and see if he's interested.
Tell him it will help build his resume.
So until that, is there any nomination for vice chair?
Um, what do we do if there's,
Unfortunately, I can't serve as an
does there
officer.
have to be a vice chair?
What's
We
that?
can leave it open at this particular point in time.
Does there have to be a vice chair?
Well, the thing is that's an open position and we're looking to, not as if we're ignoring it.
You know, so I'm not looking to nominate myself, but we need to talk about this, because if Ken is not at a meeting, I mean, the biggest role for the vice president, correct me if I'm wrong, is to run a meeting in the absence of the chair.
Correct.
that's
I
about the
right?
only role. Yes.
Correct.
I nominate you, Michael, as vice. chair.
So I'm reluctant to jump in because, you know, I'm president of the Net Board this year and vice president of Community Foundation, and I've got this new venture going here. But I would do.
Would you want to
I-
table it for another, till the
okay.
next meeting?
The problem is, Maureen, it's going to be hard to bring in a new member and say, oh, by the way,
Your chair,
Surprise.
your vice
you wanna
chair.
be vice chair. And so I would take the vice chair if nominated, given that Ken is in the position of the chair. But the other way to go would be to groom Merrill as the vice chair and find a different secretary. If someone might argue that a secretary is more important than a vice chair,
Absolutely,
right? So,
by far.
yeah,
I believe we also really only have to get through June with these. You know, we're kind of a little late in appointing officers because we had some vacancies. So really, they're at the final seat if we get it filled. And this is something you can sell to friends or people who might be interested. Is it's a short-term seat and it expires end of June this year. If
Right.
somebody wants to kind of dip their feet in to give it a try,
right.
as a selling point, and then we would reshuffle the officers at the start of the new year.
New fiscal year in July.
I also, Libby, when I had asked Libby because the question came up when I was talking with Ken and Mike the other day, was whether or not I could chair, and she shot that down pretty quickly, but did say I could guide through the meetings if need be.
Well, if nominated, I would accept, given it's until June.
I nominate you, Mike.
Yeah, I mean, I also feel like you said, I mean, vice chair versus secretary. I don't know if I were to step down as secretary to become vice chair, like then we're just left with another position empty.
Right.
So
One that I would not take.
you would
It's-
not take.
No. That's why I said you were so valuable there.
Mhm.
Yeah, thank you.
So
Yeah,
I
well,
guess-
I also
Andre?
second that
Yeah,
nomination.
I wish to learn more about everything. I could take anything, but since I'm the freshest one, I want to learn more about everything, and then I can take any positions that, it's necessary.
Maybe in June or July.
I
Excellent.
just, like I
Excellent.
said, I want to learn more how the board goes and how everything runs. And, I don't feel uncomfortable to take any positions that necessary.
Yeah, again, you kind of would have been thrown to the wolves, this being your first meeting here too,
Yeah.
so.
Okay.
And I'll also say when Andrew and I were nominated this past spring for the positions, the position I'm in, and Andrew was the vice chair, like
Mhm.
we were so new to the committee anyways that it was just kind of like,
Okay,
I don't know, okay, I guess we're doing it. So if there is like some way we can have like a description of what that position is, that might help someone be more eager to do it.
Excellent. All right, so we've got a motion, a second, all in favor of Michael being the vice?
Aye.
All in favor? Aye.
Right.
Congratulations, Mike.
Oh, thank you.
Charlie, before you get on to the last item on the agenda, I want to give sort of the board a bit of an update with respect to the discussion that we had earlier this week. When Libby asked me to get involved with the Park and Rec Commission, what I did was I pulled up the documentation that many of you have seen, which is the old document, which is called Parks and Recreation Master Plan 2020. I went through Parks and Recreation Master Plan 2020. There are either 16 or 18 different items that are in the plan. They have not a sense of priorities. They have some description with respect to it, but I didn't get any sense of any direction or purpose for what it was, other than a consolidation of the things that we have involvement with and an interest in. So I then took a look at sort of trying to take a different look at it, and the sense of what are the different items, what are their strengths, their weaknesses, their needs, and what have you. Came up with an approach which I circulated with Charlie and Michael, and it was just a way to get at taking a look at, can we set a strategic direction for the organization. Michael and Charlie and I met earlier this week, again, with the whole idea of, if you're going to set a strategic direction, you can't have more than 3 to 5 strategic goals, because otherwise you don't have any goals at all. And so what we tried to do was to go through the different areas that are encompassed in the plan. And as a result of it, we came up with 3 or 4 or maybe even almost 5 areas that of different levels of interest. And we tried to then sort of come up with a sense of prioritization, which are the most important. So part of what I was hoping we could do today was to have Charlie present to you the different areas that we talked about in terms of areas of focus, get your reaction to it, and then get some sense of not necessarily a definitive thing, other than I think we're pretty all set on what number 1 should be, the area of focus in terms of our strategic direction. And we can then start to develop some materials to let the community know that this is the strategic direction, looking at this for a 1 or 2 period. And we're going to be addressing other things as things come down the road and as we knock off. So that's part of the background of what I was hoping that we will be able to share with you today, and get some real input from you in terms of, were we on the right track, or were we completely out in left field, or were we not even in the ballpark? So with that, I would like to turn it over to Charlie and have him do a presentation of his sense of what we thought we were, where we were, and our thoughts as to what might be of interest to you.
All righty, thanks, Ken. So I'm sure you're all familiar more or less with the Parks and Rec Master Plan, or hopefully you're familiar with it. And so we kind of narrowed down to kind of 5 immediate area actions. It's really kind of like 4.5. So I'll just kind of go through where we're at with some of the stuff, because we've been doing a lot kind of behind the scenes to get things ready so we can present it to everybody. And so the first area that we're looking at is the Nobodere Fields and the Nobodere Field expansion. And this is actually, so we got a lot of stuff to kind of go through here. So the first area we'll say is the Nobodere Field expansion. The second area that we were looking at is the Delta Field expansion right across the street, and the reworking of that. And then kind of 2A, the second kind of part of preparing that area is taking a good look at Tom Nevers and what we're going to be doing out there. And in the short run, we need to make some improvements to the baseball facilities out there so that it can be a home for the Little League teams for a few years while we do construction at the Delta fields. And then the other areas we're looking, kind of number 3 was the Children's and Jetties Beach areas, which are both currently involved in a coastal resiliency study and a concession study as to what we're going to be doing with those as regard to coastal resiliency, whether be moving, raising. There's a lot going on there. And I think we decided that kind of the 5th area we wanted to focus on was Coffin Park as kind of an area that's kind of a blank slate that we might be able to expand on. And so we'll be looking to everyone for some ideas what we might like to try to incorporate into that area. And if you're not very familiar with it, I suggest take a ride by. It's right next to something natural. Currently, it's just kind of an open area with walking trails, but I think there's a great potential to add in some items there. So I'll kind of move down and expand on some of the other things here. Let's see if I can do this screen share. All right, does a nobody field pop up for everybody?
Yep.
So the first thing we have here we've got going on is I've got a capital request in already for the expansion of the Nobody fields. And so what we're looking to do is add in field number 4 in between the current synthetic field and the road, increase parking spaces and do some turf enhancement and renovation work to the 2 existing fields. We selected this as kind of phase 1 or part 1 because it was the easiest to go after, as this field was already permitted once and the mitigation for environmental stuff was already completed when this originally was proposed and constructed back, I believe, in 2008. So this was a very easy kind of grab for us that didn't require a lot of legwork. And so this total project ended up going in front of the capital committee. We're looking for about $3.8 million to do the work here, which all kind of has to happen before we can move across the street and start the expansion there, because we'll need places to house lacrosse, and soccer, and everyone will be on this facility. We'll be moving Little League out into kind of the Tom Nevers area. And so there's the big list here, so there's some additional storage being done, some additional parking spaces. There is a proposal in here to light these fields so they could expand their, spring and fall season hours. We had some discussion as whether or not we would, have them to cross paths with the dark sky folks, but I think there's enough stuff out here with lights to the airport's right there. The tennis and paddle facilities, which is just to the south of field 3, have lights. So I think it's a good opportunity to add in some expanded hours, recreate, play area for our student athletes. The field house, as it's on here, is, I would say, about 92 to 95% complete. They just took down the construction fence this week around the facility. So we're waiting on the doors to finally arrive and be installed, and then we will be able to kind of have that building for us, probably officially open it in the springtime. So maybe we'll organize a spring meeting when we're ready to turn the water back on, and we can have our Parks and Rec Commission meeting, on site there to kind of christen the building, as it were. Let's see.
Charlie, I've asked this before, and it might be semantics, but it's important semantics to me. I think we have to stop calling that building a field house.
Yeah, normally I refer to it as the athletic support building. I field house kind of stuck in my head because I think I was just looking at it on one of the plans.
Yeah, just some, I don't know what the right term is, but I think Fieldhouse has always given people the impression that it's going to be an indoor play facility. And it's not.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. And we'll be looking, as we get into the season, I've been trying to figure out what we can and can't do in the building. As could that be a place where, potentially we do other, yoga items. It's obviously not as attractive as, yoga at Children's Beach, overlooking the harbor first thing in the morning. So we'll be looking to try to figure out an actual program plan for that building, and we'll certainly be open to any suggestions. I'm going to skip instead I go to the Delta Fields. One of the next capital program that we have up for kind of Parks and Rec stuff is security cameras. So we're looking to add in security cameras to 8 of our facilities. The Tom Nevers Winter Park, Jetties Beach, Children's Beach, Delta Fields, Nobodere, Surfside, and then we actually have an additional camera to go out at the DPW. It just made sense to add it all in. And we're looking to place these around to give us an overall sense of, better security, better coverage. So we can keep an eye on the tennis courts, be able to keep an eye on, the Delta Fields, Children's Beach. There'll be 2 cameras at Children's, one big camera providing us a 360-degree view of the whole area, and then another camera specifically tucked up underneath the bandstand to really kind of deter any of the bad behavior and issues that we've had down there. So that was, I believe that's in front of Capital Committee for about $70,000. Delta Fields. Kind of the first time going public is this, which is a potential layout for the new Delta Fields. We've been working hard with Weston and Sampson to try to figure out what we can fit in and what we can do within the mitigation requirements and restrictions that we have in this area. So nothing here is set in stone, but we would like to try to work into 3 fields. I had a question asked at the Capital Committee when we've talked about Nobodere that's very youth sports oriented, and how do we add in more things for actual recreation for people who aren't into playing soccer or lacrosse. And our real opportunity is to do that here on the Delta side, where we can add in, we've got some beach volleyball courts, basketball courts, tennis courts. We'd like to add in a playground over here. And definitely open to suggestions if you think there's something we're missing on the island. Andre? Oh, you're on mute.
So I see this is amazing. For the 16 years, I've never seen a sketch like this. This will change the whole concept of the sports on the island. But I still think this is going to be 4.5 months or 5 months of usage. As soon as the weather hits, most of the time it's going to be empty. So my first idea for everybody to think about is we need a bubble. We need something that can run the whole 12 months of the year and the majority of the time for kids to use. Just a heart idea. Okay.
Yeah, you're actually the 3rd person in the last couple of weeks I've talked to about that. I talked to one lady on the Capital Committee and another lady who's heading the youth lacrosse organization about the desire for some sort of an indoor facility where we start to run into for indoor and for the bubble is even bubbles, it becomes a very big cost item, and it would become in theory the biggest structure on the island. So we'll have some hurdles to go there. It's by no means out of the realm. It is something I've talked to Weston and Sampson about when we've worked on our design things. And is there a way to make sure that if we wanted to, one of these fields could be in the future, add a bubble around it, or as we progress, even something on the Nobodere side, maybe one of those fields gets converted, but it's definitely on on the table of discussion. It's just probably not in the immediate plan.
Okay.
So, again, just, things to think about, if there's
I
anything outside of
agree.
volleyball.
I
What's that, Mike?
agree with Andre, and that's why I've said it's so important to make the distinction, because there were a lot of people, and I was among them, who thought a field house meant an indoor play facility
Mhm.
a couple of years ago when we started. And I think I'd push back a little bit, Charlie, that it won't be the biggest facility on the island. It doesn't have to house a complete soccer field. There are a lot of buildings in New Hampshire, and I'm sure every state, that have 2 indoor soccer fields, which are much smaller and can be used for lacrosse, field hockey, and soccer, among other things. So I think it's doable, but I would say if we do it, we shouldn't be talking bubble, Andre, because of the wind factor. I think we need a stronger structure, but it can be a box. It doesn't have to be elaborate.
Yeah,
So-
and I can ask, like this, we're so fresh in the design phase, I can talk to Weston and Sampson and get a metric on what some sort of a building, what a minimum size building would require to be, to play, say, 7v7 soccer or 6v6, and what that might look like, and what the,
Right.
building cost, and what they would project it would cost to run annually.
If nothing else, it would be proper for us to be considering where that might go, even if we're not ready to sell it and build it because of the cost. It should be factored into where's the space that would be allotted for that, right?
And like I
One
said,
of the things you might want to, one of the
Right,
things you
Tim.
might want to do is that before we did the swap with the land bank for the fields, there were a significant number of proposals to them by people, including some designs in terms of building that kind of interior structure on the one vacant lot that's open between the 2 existing fields and the road. And so checking in with them to see, what sort of designs they had, what the plans were, and if there were any cost framework in terms of the start of what that type of structure might cost in terms of the then pricing.
Yeah, happy to look into all that. And this, again, this is kind of a flexible plan and an idea here. We still haven't ventured down the synthetic turf aisle, I guess, when it comes to the potential of possibly getting more synthetic turf out here. There's the PFAS questions, and there's some questions there. So if we were able to substitute and get in another synthetic field here, we could reduce the footprint of, grass fields that we're looking for, and possibly, enter a building in here. We're kind of playing with this footprint was kind of our max of what we had maximum that we could use when it came to our mitigation for, endangered species in the area. It's one of the things we're slowly running out of as a town, is land where we can build on, and then make sure that we've got things set aside for environmental reasons. Any questions between security
Charlie,
cameras, Delta Field, or?
I have a question, Charlie. That area behind the school by the skate park belongs to the Parks and Recs, or is the school?
The actual area, the area within the park, the fence of the skate park is the Parks and Recreation Commission.
Those fields are for the Parks and Rec?
No, not just the skate park.
Just the skate park.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the
Yeah, 'cause
fields there are the schools.
Yeah, that would be the perfect scenario for a closed space, enclosed area for sports, multi-sports. It's very central, it's near the school. It's easy for kids to commute to practices and stuff.
So Andre, behind the skate park is is wetlands. There's sort of a long trench, big trench. And so if you're talking about the actual existing fields, those are school, but if you're talking about behind the skate park, that would be hard to build there.
Yeah.
But there is an area, as you look at the skate park, there is an area to the left that's still owned, I think, Ken, by the Backus family.
Correct.
Yeah.
And that might be an area to explore with the land bank.
Yeah, it could be worth exploring a big, building in that
Is
area,
there-
and a joint venture with the school, the land bank and the town as far as an indoor facility, because there will be, costs of the build, that you'd have to staff it, and maintenance and running it.
Yeah.
I talk about that area because you include the fact of people driving kids around through wintertime, and a lot of parents, they work, they don't have the facility to take kids around to sports, and there they can leave the school and just go straight training, or they live around that area. A lot of kids live on Essex Road area, and they all look for something to do all the time. The other part that could include a piece like that is that field over Essex Road. That field is always empty. It's sitting there by a small park. That is a place that could be invested to.
Yeah, so that area is Winter Park, and that is sort of run by the commission. Unfortunately, I believe there are some deed restrictions when that was gifted to the town as to what we can and cannot do there. I'm looking at that as to how to do some passive things there, like plunk, just run over, drop off some soccer goals and run away, because we do it is part of our field maintenance contract, and it does get or the town landscape contract, it does get mowed and does get maintained. It is irrigated. So I don't believe we could use it for formal say, soccer, but if we were to, but we can, I'm looking to try to provide, say nets there, so that way kids could go there instead of having to work like all the way to the school and have impromptu, soccer matches or whatnot right in that neighborhood.
Yeah, you will see at least 100 kids that live in specific that Essex Road area that would play in that field instead of going to the school or going up to the fields up in Belvedere and all that stuff. So you direct the kids to stay in their area instead of commuting.
Guy's in there alone. He's just playing pool. And he said it's so long.
I know one of the things I wanted to talk to the community about was to think of kind of, wish list items for Delta, for upcoming meetings. And then I wanted to guys to kind of go over what we thought about our field usage fees, which is currently here. As to know whether or not we think it works. We should be, looking to increase. I think it's been this way for quite some time. So just, some of the people to think about if it's something we think we should increase, or if we're happy with where we're at. Just something I'd ask everyone to kind of think about. If people want me to send the email this out to everybody so they have a copy, I can.
Do you want feedback now, Charlie, or do you want us to take it all in and get back to you?
My thought was, to take it in, we could bring it up at one of the upcoming meetings, but if you have any instant feedback now.
Charlie, that wasn't on the agenda.
Yeah.
No, I just had it part of, sorry, it was part of my update stuff I had in my head.
Yeah, I think it'd be wise to put it on a future agenda, Maureen.
Okay.
Exactly, for further discussion.
Actually, yeah, for the actual discussion.
Thank you.
It's interesting, though.
I would say keep it as it is because of the pandemic. Let everybody get back in shape.
So I can get this sent out to everybody so they have it to review, and we can discuss it for next time.
Because we want to make sure we give any of the coaches or people that are involved in these programs an awareness that we're thinking about possibly increase it so that they have a chance to let us know whether or not what the effect of the different kind of increase would have on their activities.
I also don't know, I guess I would ask Maureen whether or not it's something we could decide to change ourselves, or if we decided on a change for anything, if we have to bring it to any other board for final approval.
I can look into that while we're thinking about these rates. And I think we should also see when the last time they were increased. What the last, if it was 5 years ago, 10 years ago. And I'm sure it can't be an increase with simply Parks and Rec. It would have to go through at least the select board,
Yep.
but I'll confirm that.
Already have, and if I want to make it up, we'll ask Marina to give us a review maybe next time as well of what our fee policy is for children's and Jetty's Beach usage.
When you do that, you might want to look at the fee schedule the school uses for its gym and fields. It's not a perfect correlation because this is different, but I think it'd be useful information for people to see.
Sounds good. Yeah, and I know one of the ones I wanted to circle back from a couple of meetings about was the Jetty's upper parking lot fees. And to get something kind of in place, because we do get a lot of requests for, sort of rental space up there for short-term events. And I think there's, if there's an opportunity to bring in some funds to the Parks and Rec, we should take it. So I guess
At town administration, we receive a lot of calls about large trucks that are looking for space. Even if it's for a long weekend, if they're over here to move the contents of a house or something, they just need to park for a while, and that would be a convenient place for those large trucks to have a space to go to, especially in the off season.
Yep. Yeah, I know. I've also talked to like the tent companies. They call up to ask if they can use it as an area for staging, because it's tough to get some of their bigger trucks down, like say to Galley Beach to unload. So I've gotten calls and requests, to block off part of the parking so they could unload their bigger trucks and shuffle things down. So just some things to think about for next meeting. I think that brings us to the end of the agenda. So are there any questions, comments on new, old, or other business?
I just had a question, Charlie. Reaction from the board members as to whether or not you think we're going in the right direction in terms of having identified these as the major priorities in terms of focusing our initiatives on with respect to where the direction that we're going, or whether there is something, before next meeting, again, take a look through the plan from 2020 and see if there's anything out at you that suggests it should be item 4A or 5A, as opposed to the ones that we are suggesting we create a focus on over the next little while.
And if it'd be helpful for the people, I can email out kind of that list of what our process was and the reason why we chose those kind of first 5 areas where we're focusing.
I think that would be very helpful.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Now that we have had this meeting and this is somewhat public, although not fully defined and decided upon, is it something that we can share? I'm thinking of, the athletic director, the facilities director at the schools, maybe youth coaches, or do we hold on to it until there's further determination?
My feeling is that we're looking at this as a draft plan, draft strategy relative to the focus. I have no problem with us circulating that and looking for input from any other entities to be able to bring forward, because we'll bring it forward to our next meeting in terms of having a view as to agree on this is the strategy that we're moving forward, subject to any information that we get back from any of the directors here or from any outside interest where we have circulated this to.
Thank you.
If the committee disagrees, let me know, but that is my instinct in terms of, because the object of the exercise is to let people know this is what we're thinking about, this is where the area of focus is. Have we got it right, or have we missed something really, really blatant that is just so obvious that it jumps up?
Yeah, my thought is as long as everyone understands that it's a living draft, I don't want people to think that we're stuck in concrete with, 3 basketball courts, 3 tennis courts, and 3 fields. As long as everyone understands it's a flowing document, I think it's great. I've been trying to set up a time to meet with both the youth, the youth soccer and lacrosse coaches specifically, because we're going to start to work on a plan for how we're going to move forward with the scheduling of the AstroTurf for the spring to get a concrete schedule for them in place, and to make that as available as we can to the high school and the high school athletics. Over the spring, we've worked with the lacrosse teams and hosted them on the AstroTurf field in preparation for playoffs. And then just this past week, we hosted both the girls soccer team and the field hockey team for practices on the AstroTurf as they were getting ready to go off island for tournament play. So we've started to have the conversation with the youth sports to make sure that we can be as accommodating as possible to the school athletic program if they have any desire to practice, because it does make a big difference when it comes time to for game day.
Yeah. And just
Charlie,
to
just
build on
a
Charlie's point-
suggestion.
Yep.
Sorry, through the chair. Just a suggestion, Charlie, plaster the words first draft that cover half of the visuals that you use, just so that there is no, somebody will think that we've already decided if it doesn't.
Yeah, it doesn't have a big red draft on it.
Yeah,
And it says first.
right.
Yeah.
And I just, for instance, Charlie, when Charlie and Mike and I were talking about, when we're looking at the thing for out in Tom Nevers, where it had 2 little league fields, one of the things we thought was maybe we need to call one of them the girls softball league, because in fact, we don't have any fields for that. So again, the idea of trying to make this as broad as possible to attract or address the concerns of the entire community, both male and female, is a really important part of this.
Yeah, I will. Well, before we circulate it, I'll work with Brandon to get some of the labeling changed. I know we had talked about making sure instead of the little league baseball field, it said baseball/softball
Right.
fields.
Charlie, through the chair, what was the reception at Capcom when you proposed these, the security cameras, and were they receptive to spending the money on these projects, or?
Yeah, everyone seemed pretty receptive. There weren't very many questions about the security cameras. I went through in much more detail with them each location and our focal points and what we're trying to do. Like Winter Park, for instance, it's a small area, but we're going to install 2 cameras, one to kind of watch over the playground and play area, and one very specifically pointed at the parking lot, because that becomes a kind of, in the past, has been a problem area for people throwing trash or kind of hiding back there to do bad things. So we did some work this spring, and we opened up the front of that so it's visible to the road. We want to make sure people know that in these areas that they are on camera, and to try to deter any bad behavior. Everyone was pretty receptive to the fields. On the Nobadir side, again, the only kind of questions I had were from Christy Kickham, was the one who said, I'm as an adult, in Nantucket, I don't play youth soccer, I don't play youth lacrosse. is there something more recreation oriented instead of just youth sports? And as I said to him, I said, this side of the kind of, as if you look at this one big kind of nobody or Delta complex, is the nobody or side, because of our restrictions on how much more we can do there, is very much kind of sports oriented. But since we do have more space on the Delta side, that's where it allows us to work in more recreational, items, with the basketball, tennis courts, beach volleyball courts. One of the things that I don't think is on here, we talked about, was there's a big walking path, around the whole thing with benches and whatnot. And, one of my wish list items was to try to get an outdoor workout area built in kind of somewhere, not necessarily right next to the playground. So people would be willing to use it and not feel weird about being a grown adult and being there trying to work out and then have kids right next to you on a playground thing. So those are kind of my wish list things. And again, this is a very, very first draft where we put some stuff together to look at how much space, and there certainly is other space to add in more support buildings. And as we get more detailed on this, we'll be looking for a lot more feedback moving forward as we really get into the planning of this. I'd like to see if we do have the support building be essentially almost a locker room of sense, where you have a lot of bathrooms on both sides, on the men's and on women's side, and then in changing areas for people. So if we got teams coming in from off island and that sort of stuff, it helps support that. Any other questions?
Any other issues to raise with respect to today's meeting? I think this as my first as chair, this has been a very, I think, very educational meeting. I think there's a lot for us to think about, and part of what my criteria is for you as board members is that I don't allow any shrinking violets on my boards. And for those of you who don't understand that, there is no question that is inappropriate. There is no comment that is inappropriate, as long as it's respectful of the other members. And there's no question that is stupid.
Thank you for saying that.
So if there are nothing, I will entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Moved by Mike. Is there a second?
I second it.
Second by Merle. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It carries unanimously. Thank you all for attending today. And remember, I've given you a charge. You have a lot of things to think about with respect to this before our next meeting. And so I'm expecting a lot of input from you in terms of, hey, I like or I don't like, or here's something new, or maybe take this out. It's a lot.
Thank you.
Great. Bye-bye.